Hello and welcome to the Racing Postcast, proudly sponsored by Unibet. My name is James Stevens, journalist and West Country correspondent, and we are back at Cheltenham for the November meeting, looking through 5 ITV races across the weekend. And there's a special edition of the Postcast, as we also have some insight from Nicky Henderson to come. We also turn our attention to Newcastle, where there are 2 live races on ITV, so plenty to look forward to. Just to mention on last week, well done Keith, who's joining us again on his winning nap with Imperial Saint. Tipped him up at 15-8. Went off a bit shorter, but well done, Keith, for the winning nap. We've also got Tom Park returning to the fold and, as ever, Unibet's Ed Nicholson. But before we get stuck into what we fancy on the weekend, Ed, you've been down to see Nicky Henderson ahead of a really big weekend for him. Jonbon, of course, appearing on Friday. What's the vibes from Sarah and Barrows ahead of a weekend?
Well, as you know, it's a great meeting for Nicky and all the National Hunt trainers, this meeting. A little bit faster ground than many would like, but we went to Seven Barrows only this morning, Thursday morning, to touch base with the Maestro trainer and find out all about this weekend's runners.
Nicky, big 3As ahead for you and the team here at Seven Barrows. The Unibet Greatwood Hurdle taking centre stage on Sunday, but 2 good afternoons of racing beforehand. Highland was very impressive at the showcase meeting last time. You're up in grade on this occasion. How do you think he'll handle it?
Well, we were sort of pleasantly, I don't say surprised, but very pleasantly impressed, I think, with his performance at Cheltenham at the last meeting. He'd started in a little 2.5 mile novice chase at Sutherland, jumped beautifully and won well. Then things went wrong at Utoxeter. I think the ground was pretty soft. The secret to him is good ground, and 3 miles. And he did that, actually, he won the per temps qualifier at Cheltenham this time a year ago. And that performance, so that I don't think that was a strong race.
No. It looked almost to sort of fall apart a little.
It did a bit, and I thought the handicapper was going to take a very dim view. He was, I don't say he was generous, we got £4. And the silly thing is that the new National Hunt Chase over 3.5 miles is now a 0 to 145. I'd actually love to stay off 144 until March, but I can't do that. He's got to get on and do what he's got to do. And if he did go and win tomorrow, that's actually saying goodbye to the National Hunt Chase, if you like, because you go over 145. If things go wrong and he drops him too, well, you'll be saying, you know, he wants the spring ground, why don't we keep him for it? I don't know. I doubt we do clever things like that because he's here to run and so are they all. He loves this ground. And he has technically always been, since the first day, and I think a lot of us can remember schooling for the first time when most horses stop and have a look at what's in front of them. He just was brilliant. And that's the one thing he's done all along. Given 3 miles on good ground and a good fence, he's not a brilliant horse, but he's got all the right attributes.
Yeah. The main one for you tomorrow, though, Nicky, is Jonbon, who runs at 2:20 in the Shloer Chase. This has always been the plan, hasn't it, to start off here and then hopefully on to Sandown after that. Are you pleased with him in the lead of this race? Any problems? Has it all gone swimmingly?
Touch wood, it's all been very good. Yeah, it's gone exactly according to plan. And the boys were weighing the horses yesterday, and he is exactly the same weight as he was this time last year going into the Shloer, which gives me confidence because I think the timing's gone right, the preparation's gone right. Paddy rides him every day, so he is my barometer. Paddy is a notoriously optimistic pilot, but I'm pretty sure...
Which is hard not to be there when you're riding Jonbon.
Yeah, I know, but he bless him, he's always... Everything he rides is going to win. He'll never get beat if you listen to him. But I love it. I love enthusiasm. And he's always enthusiastic. But he is genuinely... I know he is very pleased with Jonbon. And everything has gone well. He had a spin round Newbury. We schooled him last week. And then once you start doing that, you can wake up very, very quickly. And, you know, he's been a lot... His last 2 bits have been very sharp. He's moving. I mean, I have to say everything's gone right.
There's only 4 runners. Are you slightly concerned that it may prove tactical, or with Nico just
Well,
jumping?
yeah, but he loves.
Quite handy.
I mean, I don't say I desperately want to go out there and blitz it first time out. You probably don't. But I mean, if nobody else wants to, he is as happy as you could be bowling along.
Yeah.
Loves it. And look what he was like at Sandown last year in the celebration chase. It was just, he set out to knock him out, and he sure did. They weren't going to jump at his pace.
Okay, in the cross country at 2:55, you're trying something different here, Nicky, with Mr. Coffee. I know we were talking before. He was saying he's always too highly rated. He's got to carry top weight in these novice handicaps. He was actually out the handicap in this race, which is quite ironic, really. But what have you done with him at home? Has he jumped any of these banks and bushes?
Well, not surprising. We have tried something different. You could go down the hunter chase route with him. He's just the most lovely horse. I mean, he has been here for quite some time. And he's been a novice chaser for 3 years. And he still is. He's a maiden over fences after 3 seasons, in which he has run some amazing races and given us all some great times. I mean, no more so than in the Grand National the year before last, when from the canal turn down to the second last, he took off and jumped and jumped and jumped. But he probably paid the price for doing a bit too much too soon. But even so, it was a bit special. You know, I haven't in my life had a lot of cause to sort of get hopeful in the Grand National. So there were 5 or 6 fences there when you actually thought it might happen. He was great. He loved it. And in which case, he's rated 144, I think, somewhere like that. But you'd love to say, please, can I just go and find a nice little race that he can win? But of that rating, there is no such thing. No. I mean, he could run in a novice chase, but you're still going to have the smarty pants, new young novices coming in. I don't know.
He's the sort of horse, though, that you just sort of think could take to it. They're going slightly steadier, gallant.
We went there last week, and Nico rode him, and we had tremendous fun. He was hysterical, but he loved it. He was very good, straight in. Some of the jumping off those banks, he was coming down from it. He goes up there and the floors were way down here, and he was coming down from a very big height, and he's a very big horse too. He enjoyed himself, so I'm looking forward to it. I have a suspicious feeling we don't do a lot of the cross countries. I mean, we've been second in the one at Cheltenham before, but I do think probably their first time there will bring them on. The second time they do it, I think that's going to be the day. If he needs the practice tomorrow, we'll be back for December.
Peaky Boy in the 2.5 mile novice handicap at 145. Obviously, looked to be a horse of immense potential over hurdles. You've not wasted any time in putting him over the big ones.
Yeah, I wasn't sure whether this was going to be the call at the beginning of the season, but he only had 2 runs over hurdles last season, both at Cheltenham, both 2 mile 5. We didn't go too ambitious. But he won them both very impressively. Yeah, he looked a very smart horse both times. Basically, with a lot of the horses we've had from last year, I do think this is a strong bunch of novice chasers. And we started early on, when we started schooling them over fences, long before we were on the grass. We have our all-weather is a carpet schooling ground. And we got them all going there, and to be fair, nearly all of them found this enjoyable, good fun. They looked very good. To be fair, the only person we asked the question of was Lucia to see if she'd jump a fence, and she said no. I mean, it didn't stop her anything, but her technique wasn't what we were looking for, whereas all these others have looked, from then looked, okay, we're all going to have to go and do it. And our problem at the moment is sorting them out who goes what and where. And with the ground as quick as it is, it's been pretty frustrating because there were an awful lot of novice chases going by. And I know everybody's seeing them go by with 3 or 4 runners in them. We're dying to run in them. Desperate to. But on this ground, you just can't do it. So we've had to tiptoe our way through the early skirmishes over fences, if you like. I mean, I'd like to have run the likes of Iberico Lord on Saturday in the novice chase, but not on this ground. I think this horse will be fine. But some like it a bit softer than others.
Yeah.
No, he's good. I mean, it'll be very interesting. He could be a high-class horse. We're going to see on Sunday.
Well, you won the Unibet Greatwood Hurdle last year with Iberica Lord. You've got one runner this year in the same colours, of course, of JP McManus, under control. I think it's only her second run in a handicap, actually. She ran in the Galway Hurdle last time. She's off 137. How well treated do you think she is off that mark?
I sort of thought she was reasonably handicapped, but then you see that she's second top weight and giving weight to all bar one, which I don't know whether it tells you. I mean, there's a lot of very talented young horses in here. I think this is where the race is coming from. But it's going to have to come from below, or not at all. If she or the top weight can win, fine. But there's some very unexposed young horses coming in here that we've got to give weight to, and I think that's where the problems will be. How well handicapped? Yes, as I say, I don't think she's overburdened at 137. The only handicap she ran in was probably the Jerry Fielden first time out last year, and then she won a handicap at Kempton and at Sandown the year before, at the back end on the last day, a novice handicap, which is very, very impressive. When she's good, she's very, very good. I don't quite know what the net result of the Galway Hurdle was. She travelled very well and then didn't really seem to finish a race off. She went out a little bit tamely, I have to say. But her work's been very good, and we're very happy. I think it's well worth a shot. The Unibet Great Hurdle is it's one of the big pre-Christmas competitions. Iberica was great at it last year, and he went on to win at Newbury as well in the Betfair. But those are two very lucrative prizes. So let's try and get the first leg done now.
Want betting on the horses to be anything but flat? With an app that impresses every time out. You're on. Want to watch live streaming of races in the UK, Ireland and around the globe? And get a chance to win even bigger with 3 Uniboosts every day on any horses you want. Unibet, you're on.
First race we're going to look at is on Friday. The 2:20 at Friday is the Shloer Chase Grade 2, where we see the return of Jonbon taking on just 3 rivals to repeat last year's impressive win. He's a short price favourite. We'll come to you first, Keith. I mean, it's straightforward, isn't it, for Jonbon?
Yeah, I don't see any reason why things don't play out exactly like last year. This race last year, Jonbon gave Edward Stone a bit of a tanking, and then Edward Stone tighten things up a little bit in the Tingle Creek, but Jonbon's the better horse. We know Jonbon's a better horse, and the ratings might tell you that 2 to 5 versus 4 to 1's a little bit more of a disparity than the ratings demand. But as I've just said, last year Jonbon was sharper at this point, and I think he'll just get it done again.
Yep, Parky?
I'm not sure it will be as straightforward as last year. Look, I just don't think I'd like taking 2 to 5 about Jonbon in any race. He's clearly very talented. Just thought that this might well be Edward Stone's champion chase. This kind of sees he's not getting any younger. And look, I'm at Cheltenham on Friday, so I will have a bet. And I would rather take a bit 4 to 1 about Edward Stone than the 2 to 5 about Jonbon. I wouldn't be mad keen on it. I expect Jonbon probably will win. But Edward Stone showed me enough last season that the spark's still there. I actually think, I know he's been pulled out on good ground before, but I actually think he's much better on better ground. So I think King's going to let him take his chance. I wouldn't be going mad, but I'll be having my tickle in the race. Will be going on Edward Stone, I think.
Edward Stone at 7-2 for Parky. We'll just read out the overall book with Unibet at the moment with 2 to 5. Jonbon, as we said, 7-2 Edward Stone. Boot Hill at 9 to 1. An Unexpected Party, who only ran earlier this week at 20 to 1. Ed, You've obviously had a long association with Nick Henderson. We know all about Jonbon's huge reputation. Look ahead to this race, but also in terms of the longevity of a season, I mean, he's got to be a champion chase horse. And, it's only a few months ago we were looking at this horse as a potential champion chase winner until what unfolded at Cheltenham Festival. I mean, we've heard from Nicky there. This looks a great start for him, but he's a high-class horse, isn't it? And they still have plenty of faith in him this season.
Yeah, I think Nicky originally thought he might need further ground as a chaser, but then that performance back end when he was a novice just meant that he was going to be racing over 2 miles. He's good enough, or he was good enough to win all the 2 mile races that he practically contested in. I wouldn't be surprised though if next Christmas we're talking about him for the King George. But anyway, about this race itself, he should win. But I understand what Tom's coming from. I think a lot of the people watching it on TV betting with Unibet will take the 7-2 Edwardstone. But as a fan of Jonbon, as a fan of Nicky, as a fan of racing, I just want to see Jonbon win.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's Friday. That's the 220 at Friday. We're going to move on to the 220 on Saturday. The 145 even on Saturday. One race before that. This is the Arkle trial where Load of Sud is the 11-8 favourite. Look Away 2-1, Petit Tonnerre 11-2, and the rest 15-2 bigger. A really interesting look towards the 2 mile championship for next season. Load of Sud, is that the right favourite, Tom? Would you fancy taking this one on?
Yeah, I think he probably is the right favourite. Just on the basis of his hurdling form last season in some high class handicaps, and he was obviously pretty good first time out over fences last time. I'm annoyed at myself because I wrote a piece for online a couple of days ago where I kind of pointed out that this race would cut up and Look Away was 10-1 then. I still think Look Away is the one that I'll side with here, just on the basis that I do think Load of Sud is better on soft ground. I was surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if the ground gets a bit quicker that he might not even take his chance. But I just think Look Away, his best form is on good ground. I thought he was really good last time. These 2-runner novice chases, you're obviously not clocking the times that they do in the bigger fields, so that you would think there would be less pressure on the jumping. But when it was a good yardstick that he beat, it was 131 Personal Ambition was rated. They both jumped really well, and there was a lot of pressure once they got racing on them last 4 or 5 fences on the jumping, because one mistake would have probably cost it for one rather than the other. And I just thought that the quicker they went, Look Away got better at his fences. And Load of Sud, as impressive as he was, did make the odd error. And I just think Look Away, if he kind of takes a chasing like he did hurdling, these kind of small fields are going to really suit him on better ground. I think he'll probably go out in front. They both made all last time, so it'll be interesting to see who does get that. But I think he'll take some pegging back. And yeah, I was impressed with him first time out. So if he can repeat that, I think there might be a little bit of improvement as well for being a better race. Yeah, Look Away is the one I'm going to side with.
Look Away at 2-1 for Tom. Keith?
I thought this was pretty straightforward. Load of Sud. The people got hung up on that one mistake he made at Stratford. That aside, he was just absolutely electric. He was a different species to those horses he was up against that day. Actually a really exciting novice chaser now. And he's got the form here, second in the county hurdle last season. The ground potentially is a concern, but this is a sort of ground that if they're concerned about it, they don't run on it. So you'll be getting your money back if they think the ground's that much of an issue. And I just think, but for that one mistake at Stratford they're getting hung up on, which again, it's a horse in his 4th fence in public, I think he'd be a shade of odds on. So Load of Sud for me.
Load of Sud for Keith. Look Away for Tom. Taking each other on. That's what we like to see on the postcast. Ed, are you signing over for the boys?
Yeah, I'm siding with Look Away. Load of Sud obviously is a good horse, best horse in the race on ratings. In fact, he's already a better chaser than he was a hurdler, I think. And he did win a race named after a horse I own called Blazer Trail. It was called Blazer Trail Hat-Trick Hero at Stratford in his last race. So I know all the lads were down there watching the race and presenting the prize. That doesn't bear any relevance whatsoever to the selection, but I just thought I'd mention it. Look Away came second in the Unibet Greatwood last year. That was a good performance. He loves faster ground. He's a front runner. And like Tom, I've watched that. It's only a 2-runner race. I think people thought I was mad in the office, but I kept on looking at the race. And I didn't see him make any mistakes. He did jump a few novice jumps, but and Tom's quite right. They both quickened a hell of a lot from the turn in. I actually thought that was a good performance on Chase debut. On a track he likes, on going he likes, against a horse who has been twice taken out on unsuitable ground when it was good going. So I think it's worth having a bet on Look Away, ran about 3-1, but like Tom, I'd wish I'd got on earlier. 10-1 was available.
Okay, on to the 220, the big race of the meeting, the Paddy Power Gold Cup. I'll come back to you, Ed. Really good betting heat this. What's the market been like? Are there any pointers in the last few days as to what the punters are really feeling is going to come and win?
Yeah, it's a great race, isn't it? Had loads of different title sponsors, obviously very important. I would say that, wouldn't I? But it's great that Paddy Power continues to support this race. It really is one of the best races of the season, certainly the early season. And plenty of horses do go on and progress from this handicap status to be better horses. Ginny's Destiny has been the subject of much media conversation over the last few weeks and is favourite at the moment. And Paul Nicholls does love to point one at this race. I know that El Redito was being aimed at this when he ran at Chepstow in the Unibet Jump Season Opener meeting. And I know for a fact that Paul was very happy with the way that he ran there. And it was going to be my selection if the ground was a little bit softer. But I think he does need it softer, El Redito. Ginny's Destiny, again, might want it softer. But he's got a really good Cheltenham record, hasn't he? And he's always there or thereabouts. I just thought Ginny's Destiny, although a short price, was the most obvious selection here. But it will be an interesting race if you do have a stronger fancy. And I know Keith always has one that he likes in these sort of races. You will get an extra place with Unibet. But yeah, I'm going to be a little bit boring and go for Ginny's Destiny.
Extra place race, this one. Just spin through the market. We've got Ginny's Destiny, 11-4 favourite. Pretty short for a Paddy Power Gold Cup, but a classy horse last season. Garlaw and Imagine at 5s. Il Redito, mentioned there by Ed, at 6s. And In Excelsis Deo, a horse who was so unlucky in that plate last year, but got his day in the silver trophy for Harry Fry. Keith, I should have also mentioned, you had some success with Al Dancer. We spoke at length about Callum Pritchard as a jockey to watch. And he's gone and won the Badger Beer. So credit to you for that selection as well.
Yeah, he's a really exciting conditional, and the cat's out the bag really with Callum Pritchard. And he had another big winner during the week with Celebre Delaine. He's now the £7 claimer flavour of the month, so he'll be on lots of big rides. And he's actually, spoiler alert for later, he's going to come up later in the podcast as well. To this race, I've got a question for Ed. I'm waiting to get 3s to back Ginny's Destiny because I think I'll get it on Saturday morning. Yeah. What do you think?
No, I agree. I think you will get 3s. Yeah, I think. I mean, as you rightly know, it does. They do drift in the morning as well, and there will be lots of people trying to get those type of horses because 3-1, 11-4, is short really for a race like this. But I think you'll get 3s.
Good. Well, you say 3s, 11-4 is short for a race like this. I don't think it's a great Paddy Power. Every single race I'm looking at this sort of, I'm going, it's not a great renewal of X, and this is no different. And Ginny's Destiny looked like the sort of horse that could pick up and carry a field like this, to be honest. I think he's going to have been aimed at the race. Nicholls would have got him fit. And I think he's just got an outstanding chance. I mean, Protected It's in there, which he has interest in the race. And he's actually, the 2 horses that weren't declared were only not declared because Protected It's running. They'd have been miles out the weights. But yeah, Ginny's Destiny stands out a little bit. And I think the market's just got the race right because Garlaw is the big danger on decent ground. Ran a really good race at Chepstow at the Unibet meeting there. I just think there's a bit more to come from Garlaw too, and the conditions will suit. So the market's got the favourite right, it's got the second favourite right. It's a bit dull, but there you go. I'm going to wait for 3-1 about Ginny's Destiny and probably get tucked in because it's not the best Paddy Power.
Ginny's Destiny in the 220 at Cheltenham. Parky, what do you like here?
Yeah, Keith's talking. Well, they're both talking a lot of sense. I can't see past Ginny's Destiny really. I've tried to dissect the race as best I can. I've come a lot on the same lines as Keith. Galore is second best, I would say. Interesting with Galore, he jumped better than he ever has at Chepstow last time. And it's been, if he had an Achilles heel in these kind of big handicaps, it was his jumping. Even when he won the Paddy Power, he jumped like a wardrobe for half the race. So he he definitely has an each way chance. I'd be very surprised to see him out of the places, but the betting's kind of latched onto him now. I just can't see past Ginny's Destiny, though. I think what I really like about his form is he's got handicap form in the book. He's not one of these kind of grade 1 novices that are coming into a race like this, having run in 4 or 5 runner fields last season, albeit graded. He's got handicap form in the book. He's got form at Cheltenham. I like the style which he runs in a race like this. On ground like this, I think it's going to be even more important. The only negative is that Nichols wanted to get a run into him and hasn't. But look, he's come out and said it's not a problem. Nichols is not going to leave one undercooked for a race like this. This has been the plan. I just think Ginny's Destiny is rock solid. And yeah, as Keith said, if you can get 3-1, I think he's a good bet. I think he's the likely winner of the race. So yeah. And
what a joy it is watching him jump around Cheltenham. I mean, just electric last season as a novice. You could easily forget he was a novice last season. He jumped
the only thing that's in the back of my head is it too good to be true? That's like everything is pointing that way. Do you know what I mean? And it's so often this happens, and that they often don't win. But there's just so much in his favour. I don't know if that can be an argument to getting a horse beat, but it is in the back of my mind.
I'm going all in on this. The races are all weak this autumn. People think, we've talked about 3-1 short for a race like the Paddy Power, but no, look at the field. Don't look at the race title. Look at the field. Yeah. Ginny's Destiny's 9-4 to beat this field.
Look at Stage Star last year. What
was his real price? Yeah. What was his real? And so I'm just don't back the race title. Back against the field, and I think Ginny's is a 9-4 shot against this field.
Well, yeah. Wow. Is it too good to be true? Let us know what you fancy in the Paddy Power. But Tom and Keith both really keen on the hot favourite, Ginny's Destiny. Let's move on to the 255. This is the From Horse's Mouth podcast handicap hurdle over 3 miles. 15 grand to the winner. And it's going to be important because Paul Nicholls and Dan Skelton have the two at the top of the market. A little insight into that Trainers' Championship. Doyne Quest for Mr. Skelton is 3-1. Email Andy for Nicholls at 5s. Gal Road ran well at Cheltenham earlier this season, 6-1. Noble Birth for Gavin Cromwell. We know his success at Cheltenham, 13-2. And thanks for the help for the informed David Pike team at 15-2. We'll come back to you, Tom. Where are you looking here?
Yeah, look, when I was doing my studying earlier in the week, I was falling back on Gal Road, and I think he is rock solid. That said, I was waiting for the decks because I just wanted to see what the plan was with Thanks for Help. I think he's really interesting. This horse went off 100-30 for a Potence final 2023. He finished 12th in that race. I think he won next time before being pulled up. Then had a bit of a break. He only ran once last season, where I think he was pulled up again. He had a pipe opener, pardon the pun, last time out. And I just think that there could be a bit more to come from this horse, and he's so well handicapped, potentially of 118, I think. Pipe loves this meeting. He often gets them right, and as you pointed out, he's in really, really good form. And just all of those kind of coming together, I'm happy to give him. You have to take a little bit of a chance with him because his form has been pretty dismal. He's occasionally puts in a real stinker, but there's a lot going for him here. He may well have just needed that run last time, and I think I think he's the one I'm going to side with. Thanks for help.
15-2 chance, Ed.
Yeah, I can see where Tom's coming from. He was one of the easiest winners I've ever seen at Chepstow 2 seasons back, or season and a half back, when he won that Potence qualifier, the last one before the final. And as Tom said, he went off 130 favourite for the final. He only won by 6.5 lengths at Chepstow, but he'd won the race turning in, which you don't get at Chepstow. And that was off 117, I think. He's now back down to 118. But my worry with Thanks for the, I mean, I do like Thanks for the Help. My worry would be the ground, Tom. It'd be too fast for him, wouldn't it? Yeah, potentially. We've just not seen an awful lot of him since his festival run. I'd be kind of, I think Pipe would, he had options. So he had others entered in this race.
So I think the fact that he's kind of going with him probably thinks that they think he's going to go on it. I wouldn't be overly concerned. I think until we've kind of got a string of form, I would rather see a horse kind of who looks like they're kind of in form and throws in a little bit of a stinker on better ground. That's the one when he's kind of been pulled up, but he's got a lot of pulled ups next to his name. So I don't know if we can really put it on the ground yet. We'll see. I'm happy to take a chance on the ground, I think.
Well, I'm going to go for Gal Road. He's also been taken out a couple of times when the going's been good, but he has won on good going. So, and he ran really well last time on similar ground conditions, I would have thought, when second over course and distance. Been put up £2, just nudged a bit up in the handicap. As you said at the beginning, he's the obvious choice, I think. You'd be surprised if he didn't come out the first 3. And with Unibet, we're going extra play, so you get the first 4 in this race. So, yeah, it's a difficult race, though. There's a few of these that you would fancy with softer ground conditions. But, yeah, I'm going to go for Gal Road each way with the extra place.
Great. And Keith?
Yeah, I thought this was probably another one for the favourite, really. Doyen Quest just caught the eye so much when he was second at Chepstow in the Silver Trophy at the Unibet meeting. I know, admittedly, the chase course a lot better than the hurdle course at Chepstow, but you do not give that amount of ground away that he gave away that day. He did well to actually travel up like he did. He travelled like thunder behind Josh the Boss and just flattened out. It was his first run of the season, and he had to work hard to make up that ground. He's bred to stay 3 miles really well. Look up his pedigree. It's a really stout pedigree. I think there's 4-mile winners in there. Just got a lot going for him in that regard. He's also got the Cheltenham course form. He won at the April meeting here. He beat What's Up With You, who's running on Friday. Actually, could be interesting because Callum Pritchard's getting a clean 10 off him because he's riding for Ben Pauling. So yeah, maybe that form will get a boost. This horse doesn't. His form as it stands is really good, and he's got that run behind him at Chepstow as a result of that. I thought it was a race to keep it simple. He's got tons and tons going for him.
Absolutely, completely agree with you, Keith, as well. And the other point on that Silver Trophy is the form of that race is working out remarkably well. I mean, Take No Chances, just for example, in third, has gone and won the listed race at Wetherby and was even given a entry in the fighting fifth at Newcastle. One more race to look at. This is the 3:30 at Cheltenham. This is the Paddy Power Intermediate Hurdle. Handicap Hurdle, should I say, where we've got Why Not, who has been pretty strong in the market, previous winner at the October meeting, into 4-1. Champagne Twist, EBF final winner from last year at 9-2 with Major Fortune. Another big chance for the Skeletons. And at 9-2 as well is Hamsian for AJ Martin. And we've got Firefly 13-2, Wonderful Eagle 7-1. Another really competitive handicap hurdle to get stuck into. But Ed Nicholson, we've got a super boost.
Yes, super boost in this race. So 9 o'clock in the morning of the race, so Saturday, you will get the next price up on every horse. So there will be a better price available. The margin will obviously be lower for the total race, but it's a very difficult race. I have a favourite here in that I keep on thinking Firefly is going to win something big, and he keeps on disappointing me. I napped him to win at Sandown a couple of times last season. He disappointed both times. He's had a wind surgery operation since we last saw him. He goes well fresh. He's from this Paul Nicholls stable, who would have been looking at races like this for him, I would have thought. So I'm going to give him one more chance, Firefly. I noted that he's not particularly been well supported in the betting, which is of concern, but I'll go for Firefly. My eye was immediately taken to Why Not, which would be my kind of horse I would go for in this race. The mare's won 4 from 6 hurdle races, is improving, and the Chestnut looks like she could, follow up the course win from last time. But the weights put me off a little bit. Had a claimer on board last time. It's gone up in the weights. Sam takes on board, but has to. I mean, you have to improve. She'll have to improve a hell of a lot again to win, but she might do because she is improving. But that put me off. Why not? So I'm just going to give Firefly one more chance.
Bit of a cliff horse by the sounds of it there. Ed, Firefly at 13-2. Keith?
I've been quite taken recently by the sort of upsurge in Philip Hobbs and Johnson White's fortunes. I wouldn't say they've been, in a lean spell or going backwards, but it's certainly been a little bit of a sleeping giant of the game the last few years, I think it'd be fair to say. And it looks like they've all I've got a lot of promising horses coming out of that yard now, and they look to have finally started to get the best out of Wonderful Eagle, who was a good horse in the flat on the flat in Germany. Started off quite brightly last season, finished fourth at this meeting, but has really kicked on since having wind surgery in the summer there. Won on the flat, one looking like a completely different horse to what he was last season over hurdles at Newton Abbot, and then he ran a really good race to finish third at a handicap at Ascot of 86 as flat mark. You know, a horse that can compete off marks in the mid to high 80s on the flat has got a right chance of 117 going back over hurdles. It just looks like a horse that's going the right way. I don't think it's maybe been fully appreciated yet just how resurgent the Hobbs and White yard is. And before we get to that point, let's make hay with horses like this.
Absolutely agree. The form is very good, and Seb Jarrell, we discussed earlier, was a good winner in the week. 7-1, Wonderful Eagle. Tom, I did see you nodding along. Are you a Wonderful Eagle fan as well?
Yeah, Keith's been reading my notes, I think. I totally agree with everything he said. The Hobbs yard they're on the march. And Hobbs, he has an excellent record at this meeting. I think he's 24% strike rate in the last 10 years. I ran some stats for a piece I did earlier in the week, and he came out best strike rate, and he had like a astronomical P&L as well. I think I've got it actually plus 14.85 to a level pound stake. So he likes this meeting, and he perhaps hasn't had the kind of weapons over the last maybe year or two at this meeting. I think Wonderful Eagle's got a really good chance here. Like he said, seems to have been transformed by the wind up. The 2 runs on the flat, I actually think I would happily back him again on the flat off a mark of 86. I think there's a little bit scope off that mark still. And that would make him really well handicapped here over jumps. Excellent Newton Abbot, won very causally. And I think he'll be much better for a strongly run race, which he should get here. Lots to like. Yeah, very keen on Wonderful Eagle, actually. Very close to being my nap this week. But given it's such a competitive race, I've avoided it. But I think he's got a right chance. I'm looking forward to backing him anyway.
A little tease from Tom there. That was the 3:30 at Cheltenham, where Tom and Keith both keen on the 7-1 chance Wonderful Eagle. We move on to the 3:30 at Cheltenham on Sunday. This is the Unibet Greatwood Hurdle, the highlight on the final day of the November meeting. And it's all about the betting. Desart Enos described on Upping the Ante, which is available on Racing Post YouTube channel, as the best handicapped horse in the country, according to David Jennings. We'll come straight back to you, Tom. Do we agree with David Jennings, first and foremost? And are we going to take on Desart Enos?
DJ could be right. She looks. It's a very teasing mark, isn't it? 131 for an unbeaten mare. Who I think the thing with Desart Enos is that the one bit of form that really stands out is that bumper win over Golden Ace at Aintree, but that was a bumper. We haven't seen an awful lot of her over hurdles. Or she won 3 times, yes, but she was long odds on for 2 of them. She was odds on for all 3, I think. I'm keen to take her on, and I think Burdett Road has got a right chance here. Similar to what we were just saying about Wonderful Eagle, he's improved massively over the flat over the summer. If you think of his first couple of runs on the flat, he was kind of, they're just trying to find this horse. I think he's so keen in his races, but by the end of the season, he'd really kind of put it together. And if he's improved as much over jumps as he has on the flat, I think he's going to make really light work of a mark of 133. Thankfully, I got on when Mr. Keeley put it up in the big jump off, so I've got quite a fancy price. That said, I still think 5-1 is excellent value, because I'm going down the field, and the one that I might have an each way saver on's Under Control. I was quite keen on her for the county. That said, she's starting to get the impression that she doesn't quite see out her races in these kind of big handicaps. I thought she had every chance to win it in the Galway Hurdle, and just didn't quite have the mettle to kind of stick it to them. Burdett Road, I do hope they go forward with Burdett Road, because his best performance on the flat over the summer was at Newmarket in that listed race, where they just kind of went hell for leather. And I would love to see them be so positive over jumps. His jumping will need to improve from what we saw last year, but I think riding him from the front might just help with that. And yeah, I'm very keen on Burdett Road. Again, was very close to being my nap. Yeah, love him. Yeah.
And it must be said as well, James Erner has made a really fantastic start to his jump string. He had a great year on the flat, but his jump's also in flying form as well. Ed, big race for Unibet to sponsor the Greatwood. Firstly, how was the market looking? And secondly, where are you looking towards this? Because it's another competitive handicap hurdle get stuck into.
Yeah, well, you can see why we've sponsored it for 12 years. It's a very competitive handicap. The first 4 was with Stan James. Previously to Stan James, and you'll probably know this, James, being a wonderful statistician, the Racing Post sponsored this race. It was called the racingpost.co.uk handicap. And then we put Greatwood back into the title with Stan James. And for the last 8 years, it's been the Unibet Greatwood, part of a multi-million-pound sponsorship deal we have with the Jockey Club, which is our road to Cheltenham. So we've got this. We've got the Unibet Morgiana Grade 1 next week, which we'll be previewing. And then we've got the new Unibet Hurdle in the trials weekend, and then the Unibet Champion Hurdle itself. And this is always a good race. It used to be a race where you could potentially see champion hurdlers progress, but it hasn't. I think the last one that won this, that ended up winning the champion hurdle, was Celtic Shot in mid-80s, 87 maybe. So I don't think I think I'm right. That's just from memory. But I
think Rooster Booster's crept in since then, Ed.
Rooster
yeah,
Booster.
I don't. Did it win this race?
He did win this race, yeah. Yeah, he did, yeah.
I think he didn't win it the same year as he won champion hurdle, though. Maybe I got
That's
that
the
wrong.
only thing, yeah. He definitely won both races.
Yeah. Whereas Celtic Shot did same season. So yeah, Dice Enos is a favourite that's been well supported, well touted. Fergal O'Brien, I've never seen him so confident. I mean, we used to sponsor his stable, and he's never been this confident. So you've got to take that into consideration. I spoke to James Owen during the summer at Royal Ascot. He said that he'd be targeting Burdett Road at this race. So they've had this as a long-term plan. And under control, Nikki Henderson talks about her earlier on in this programme. And they've always thought there's a big handicap for her. They thought it was in Scotland, then they thought it was in Ireland. Perhaps it's in Cheltenham. And she might win this in the same colours as last year's winner, Iberica Lord. But I'm going to go for number 9, Liari. Paul Nicholls loves to kind of angle a horse for these big handicaps. I know most trainers do. It's a kind of well-worn expression, isn't it? Probably a sad one to use all the time. But Nicholls does pinpoint his horses for the big pots. And this horse definitely had this race in mind when he ran at the Unibet Jump Season Opener at Chepstow. And I think that they're going to go very close with Liari if it runs. We're doing this before the declarations. And incidentally, once we know the declarations, we'll be offering either 2 extra places or 1 extra place on this race, as it's our big race, one of our biggest races that we sponsor for the whole season.
Certainly a good offer there. Thanks very much for Ed. Liari at 14-1, a bit of an outsider there for the Paul Nicholls team. And finally, we come to you, Keith.
Yeah, I'm probably a bit more scared of Liari than I am of Dice Enos. Dice Enos might actually be really well handicapped, but is she well enough handicapped to get only £2 off a horse as good as Burdett Road? No chance. He's a better handicapped horse. There's no question about that in my mind. He might be a nutter and he might not give his running, but if they've managed to get any sort of fizz out of him, and this should he's been running on the flat, certainly the second half of the season. Sam Twiston Davies is the sort of jockey who will give him his head. He's not. Some jockeys are absolutely determined to get these free going sorts some cover. Sam Twister doesn't always do. He's quite happy sometimes to let them bounce out and do their own thing. And I hope he sort of does something like that if Burdett Road's given him jip. His ability is miles better than that mark. You'd think he had a chance of 143, wouldn't you, given his flat form? Burdett Road, I think, has got a really, really good chance. You're definitely going to have been aimed at the race in a way that I'm not sure about Liari in that regard, actually. That's the sort of horse Liari's definitely going to do better this season for Paul Nicholls. Is it today? That's the thing with Liari. he's definitely going to end up better than that mark of 130. But Burdett Road, it's all about today. And then on to maybe better things if he shows all his flat form. But even if he doesn't, he can still win this.
A second shout for Burdett Road. Look like Tom and Keith have been copying each other's homework on the way here. Another strong shout together, 9-2 Burdett Road. And just before we go into Newcastle, do we have any more fancies from around Cheltenham? Keith, you've had a good look across the meeting for us.
Yeah, I've fancied more probably off the telly than on this weekend, if I'm quite honest. There's an amateur riders race before the cameras start rolling at Cheltenham, the 110. Another sort of really interesting race, and I thought the ride Transmission got last time when he was second to Highland at the showcase meeting here. It was an interesting one. He just looked like a horse that was getting that bit of experience in. It was only his second chase start, and this is quite rare in Cheltenham handicap. Good handicaps, which often the races at Cheltenham are. You need 3-4 runs for a chaser to get in the race. He's only got 2 because it's not a Class 1 race or anything. So he's come in here really unexposed. They managed to book Patrick Mullins as well. So for that reason, I really don't think Transmission's going to go unnoticed. They're going to notice Patrick Mullins riding for Neil Mulholland and that a lot of 2 and 2 together. But I can see him running a big race in that 110. The 120 at Uttoxeter, it's a race. I like this race. It's a 3 mile 2 race on the Uttoxeter card. Sometimes a really good race, but 3 mile 2 race at this time of year, you're looking for mudlarks. You've not got the ground, so it's ended up quite a weak race. And as a result, I think AJP Kingdom or Fergal O'Brien might be able to pick them up and carry them. Got a really sort of slow pedigree. I think he's quite a slow horse, but he's been running in the summer, so he obviously handles decent ground. And he was second to King Turgeon at Chepstow last time, and King Turgeon obviously went on to win the Grand Sefton last week at Aintree. So that form's had a nice little bit of a boost, and the longer you give this horse, the better. And there's no King Turgeons in this race, I can tell you that for nothing. And finally, I promised you the Callum Pritchard Ben Pauling link. Callum Pritchard is being sent up to Wetherby by his boss on Saturday for one ride, and that's on Densworth, horse that should make up into a better chaser than hurdler in time. He actually had some good form over hurdles and mostly fresh, but he has had a run this time. He finished 5th in the race at Aintree behind Imperial Saint before Imperial Saint won again last week. An encouraging chasing debut. He's been dropped £3 for that. And then he gets Callum Pritchard's 10, which it's basically free. He's the good claimers, their claims cost. So he's a stone lower than where he ran last time in a better race than this. So yeah, I've got Densworth on my list for the 135 at Wetherby too.
So just to clarify, we're going around the tracks there with 110 at Cheltenham Transmission, 120 at Uttoxeter, AJP Kingdom, and 135 Densworth. Tom?
Yeah, I'm going to go a little bit left field like we did last year. We were fortunate enough last year to tip one up at 50-1 in the first race of Cheltenham on Friday. And while I don't have a 50-1 shot this time, I do think Placier de Fleur is a really well handicapped horse still. I think it's won its last 5 starts. I have someone who kind of knows what they're talking about, and they said that Mr. Hope Street is one of the best handicapped horses on the planet and couldn't see him getting beat at all at Exeter last time. And these two pulled 13 lengths clear within a hurdle because the field kind of approached the last together and these two just kicked on together. That suggests that this horse is really real handicapped still. I think it was put up £7 or £8, which looks a pretty hefty height for a horse who's won half a length. But if Mr. Hope Street is as well handicapped as they think, it won't go anywhere near stopping Placier de Fleur winning. I'd have preferred a little bit of cut in the ground, but I think that I'm surprised he isn't favourite, to be honest, for Fergal O'Brien, who obviously likes having winners at this meeting. And yeah, I think he'll kick the meeting off with a winner because I think Placier de Fleur is a cracking bet.
Good. Well, we'll move on to the flat action after a quick word from our advertisers. Okay, we now turn our attention to the all-weather action at Newcastle. We're previewing 2 live ITV races starting in the 3:15 at Newcastle. This is the Bet UK Churchill Stakes, where we see 3-time Group 1 winner Dubai Honor appear on the all-weather. Interesting outing in the northeast. He is 9-4 favourite with our sponsors Unibet. We've got Peaceman 11-4, Tyrenian C 4-1, the Foxes 7s, and Swing Vote 8-1. Let's go to you, Keith. What do we like in the first ITV race at Newcastle?
Like, I'm sort of still following some of the sprinters on the flat, just in the last vestiges of the sort of season. So I'm not really doing the middle distance horses. This race ultimately comes down to whether I can trust Dubai Honor to give £7 to Peaceman and be nearly as ready as him. And I can. So Peaceman, who is going the right way, he had a long break before that run when he came back at Newmarket in October there, and he went on from that to then finish second in a listed race. Horse going the right way. With the £7 in hand, he's actually right up there with Dubai Honor's form anyway. And I just, I thought he was the better the prices without having any great enthusiasm either way.
Peaceman 11-4. Tom?
Yeah, I like Dubai Honor. I think it should be good enough to give £7. I think come up level with the weights, obviously, with their ratings, but just Dubai Honor's just got that real touch of class in a race like this. I think it's a fair price as well for the best horse in the race. I think he'll be able to give him 7, so I'm going to go with Dubai Honor.
Dubai Honor 9-4. Ed?
Yeah, I'm going to go Dubai Honor, but I can see the point that has been made for Peaceman. Incidentally, we are industry best price on this race. So from 9 a.m. on the day of the race, if you fancy a horse, you really don't need to go anywhere else, because we will match all the major players from the betting industry from 9 a.m. So you won't get a better price anywhere else. And that could be significant, because I think if Dubai Honor is as big as 9-4, 5-2, that would slightly worry me. I think he should be less than 2-1 here. I really do. I know they come out the same horse on the ratings with the £7, but Dubai Honor's been running in Group 1s and Group 2s and is all right on the all-weather. He won the Magnolia at Kempton over this trip. And I do love William Haggas when he goes up to Newcastle. I really do. So if Dubai Honor was not even favourite, or I know it sounds silly, but if that would really put me off. I mean, I think Dubai Honor should be less than 2-1, and if he is, I'll be waiting to see where he is 10 minutes before the race, because they do that stable often does it's significant if they do drift, especially when they go up triple. They're a horse that are dropping down in grade, because he's a Group 1 horse. I mean, he's a Group 1 winner, isn't he? So yeah, that would be the one for me. Dubai Honor.
Dubai Honor hopefully will be too good for Ed. We'll move on to the 348 at Newcastle, the Bet UK Gold Rose Stakes over 6 furlongs. Interesting race, this one, because we've got Anaf 11-4 favourite, Night Raider 100-30, William Twee, last year's winner 9-2, Wiltshire 11-2, and Al Bashir, should I say, 6-1. Lots of familiar sprinters we've seen an awful long time through the season. Which one is going to come up trumps, Tom?
Yeah, it's a good race, this. It's not one that I'll be going mad in from a punting perspective. I think it's a difficult one to solve. I'm going to go with Night Raider. He's looked like the penny finally dropped at Kempton last time. We've been waiting a while for that penny to drop, because he kind of showed a lot of promise at the start of this season on the all-weather, where he obviously pitched up in the Guineas. This is much more his trip. I think he's a sprinter. But yeah, I think he was gelded a couple of starts ago. Wind up a couple of starts ago. And I think that might have made the difference. I always say I like to see a horse second time out after a wind up, and he put in a pretty impressive performance, I thought, at Kempton to beat Equilateral by 2.5 lengths. Obviously got to step up again, but just given the kind of regard he was held in earlier in the season, just lost his way a bit. Maybe it was a problem with his wind, but that seems to have certainly helped. So I'll take a chance on Night Raider here.
100-30 selection for Tom. Keith?
Yeah, it's a really frustrating race, this, because it is an interesting race. It's a deep race, lots of horses there that I'd be interested for in the right circumstances, The market's found Wiltshire a bit, and he's had a pretty bad run last time and had a tongue tie stuck on him. It's found William Twee. He had another bad run last time. I'm slightly more inclined to forgive him. And there's horses like Staniclef who Staincliffe, who had a culture shock in the Beverley Bullet. Pint Crystal's got a good form back in the book and is a monster price. And if there's a bet, it's not the favourite. It maybe is St Lawrence, who's actually been running quite well in France over the summer. A good form at Ascot and all that, but is drawn on the wing. Unfortunately, Anaf's just the best horse by daylight and isn't priced as such. So while there's lots of interesting horses here, there is a legit Group 1 sprinter in the field with a decent draw and good course form. I think he's something like 2 wins, couple of placed efforts and a 4th from 5 runs at Newcastle. I'm afraid I'm going to have to be boring again, even though I really wanted to have a bet and a good look at the race. I might play some exotics in that on the bigger priced horses, but 1 point win single, it's going to have to be Anaf.
Enough for Keith, but mention as well that St Lawrence perhaps could be a little overpriced at Leamington. We might have a bit of each way appeal. And finally, we come to you, Ed.
Yeah, I'm with Keith with Anaf. There's no reason not to back him. When you're looking at a favourite in this kind of race, incidentally, we are going extra place, which is unusual in a listed race for us. So just shows you how deep it is and how competitive. But I thought Anaf with the rating, same as Keith really, but the ratings is well clear. Better on the all-weather than maybe on turf. 5 from 11. So you don't have that as a negative. Higher in the ratings than any other horse in the race, and ran 9th in recently. So you doubt whether it'll need the. Well, he won't need the run, and that was a Group 1 race. So I thought Anaf was a good bet. Yeah, I agree with Keith.
Good. That was the 3:48 at Newcastle. Now we move on to our naps for the meeting, and we've got to go to you first, Tom. You've teased us all show. You said this could be the one, this could be one. What is the nap for Tom Park on Saturday, on this weekend?
Yeah, we're going with Ginny's Destiny in the Paddy Power 220 on Saturday at Cheltenham. I just think that everything is in place for this horse to just run round, jump so extravagant like he normally does, and he'll just have the majority of this field toiling with 2 out, and it'll just be what can actually challenge him up the running, but I don't think anything will go past him. So yeah, Ginny's Destiny for me in the Paddy Power.
Good man. On to Keith.
I fancy Ginny's Destiny. I am up against Ed's nap in his race, and he really fancies one in that race. I quite like my selection in that race too. So I ended up, I'm putting mine in the Greatwood. Burdett Road is too low handicap to ignore. I mean, we're doing it technically as an anti-post bet. They don't declare until after this goes out, but he's been aimed at the race. Don't you worry about that. And so it's Burdett Road for me in the Greatwood, 3:30 at Cheltenham on Sunday.
Thank you very much. And finally, Ed, we'll come to you.
Yeah. Don't forget the every tip here is boosted, but with Keith's being on Sunday, you're going to have to wait until Sunday 9 a.m. to get the extra boost. So if you are waiting for that extra price, then do bear that in mind. I'm going to go with a horse who likes the ground, likes the course, jumped really well first time out, and I think is taking on a favourite that may not necessarily like the ground. So my nap is going to be Look Away in the 145 at Cheltenham, the Arkle trial. I think there's a lot going for him, and I really like the way that he attacked his fences on his chase debut at Uttoxeter.
That's Look Away in the 145 at Cheltenham on Saturday. And I'm also going to go at Cheltenham on Saturday in the 255 Doyen Quest. Go back and look at that form from the Silver Trophy. It is red hot, and this horse travelled like the best horse in the race. And hopefully he goes and proves it on the weekend. So that wraps up the show. Thank you very much to our panelists, Keith Melrose, Tom Park and Ed Nicholson. We'll be back next Thursday at 7 p.m. to look ahead to the first Grade 1 of the jump season, the Betfair Chase, as well as a high-quality jumps card at Ascot. As ever, please do rate, review and subscribe to the show wherever you're listening to us, and do give us a comment if you do have a strong fancy for the weekend's racing. But until next time, enjoy Cheltenham, goodbye and gamble responsibly.